And to introduce our speaker today, we have John Kellogg.
Good morning. You're in for a treat. So this water project in Kenya has been an ongoing endeavor of ours for a while with lots of club interest. And I've provided some updates, but today you're going to get a really special behind the curtain look at things as we hear from folks who were part of the inspiration to get it done. Folks who have partnered with us and led the students and helped us, and folks who've been on the ground there and seen the actual project. So I'm going to introduce our guests this morning. I have their bios. So Nick Zellman, Nick is the ninth generation. How do you mean ninth generation educator? I mean, someone started like a caveman. Focus on educational visioning, professional development of educators, and design support for future flexible learning environments. He's the co-author of Team Ed, Building for Effective Teams for Education, Projects and Communities. He supports UST-AWI Global Communities. They've been a big partner with us on this project through coaching teams of educators to create relationship-based, real-world entrepreneurial mindset projects, the kind of education we need to see for people. Linda Amici, I'm sad to hear that Linda is changing roles. She's leaving the district, but she's expanding her influence on educators. She's going to be working with an organization that trains teachers and much of the work that she's done. So sad for the district, sad for our kids, excited for Linda. As an educator who believes empowering others to be the change can transform communities near and far. She recently transitioned from classroom educator and middle school instructional coach in Westerville to professional learning coordinator at Partnerships for Authentic Learning and Leadership. She has a master's in curriculum instruction from Ohio State. She's faculty member at Otterbein. She's presented lots of workshops and done lots of powerful things with teachers. I know her work, seen it firsthand, and it's exciting. It was really part of the spark for what got us going here. And then lastly, my favorite is Andrew. Andrew's here today. So Andrew's going to be a senior. And the first time you came here to visit with us, seventh grade? Eighth grade. So he's a little taller, a little more man-like, a little smarter than he was last time he was with us. But Andrew had the opportunity to go overseas. He's going to be senior at Central, one of 8 members of that Future City team that inspired us to raise funds for the borehole in the Dukers Community Learning Center in Kenya. He traveled there this summer with his mother, who's here as well, who also started a project while she was there. So we might be able to hear a little bit about that to deepen their understanding of the community and celebrate the development of the borehole. As an update, we have a little glitch with the hole. The water's coming out, but it's not as pure as we like. So there's some additional work that's got to be done there. But we're going to get it done and help this community. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the podium over to our presenters and let them do their thing. Welcome.
Thank you, John and Larry and Julie, for taking the inspiration that you'll hear more from Andrew and turning this into a real and impactful project. I'd like you to imagine what learning would look like all around the world when young people take up something that gives an agency to themselves as learners and connects them to people in other parts of the world, that allows wonderfully innovative things to develop here in Westerville, in Mashuuru, Kenya, and in all the other communities that we work around the world. And I don't remember exactly how to. Okay. So though this project was focused on water, we're going to show you how that water has created seeds of other possible futures for tomorrow. Ustawi is a Kiswahili word from East Africa. It was our inspiration to create the nonprofit because of its focus on collectively flourishing. So that work is our kind of guiding light as we do this work around the world. And our aspiration is to co-create a harmonious world where all living systems can flourish. And I think you'll see that I'm not sure why that format is different, but that our values of agency, connection, and innovation very much align with three of your pillars around clean water, education, and growing local economy. So I'm going to turn this piece over to Andrew because he was the one who inspired all of you and sustained that over these many years.
Morning, everybody. My name is Andrew Poole. I was just introduced I'm a senior at West Trail Central. It has been 4 years now since we started this project. And I'll give you the rundown of what Future City is before we get into the meat of it. Future City is essentially a project where students around the country are assigned the idea of creating a city 100 years from. Ours was climate change. And what made us different was we were given the opportunity through Gustavo Global and my teacher, her connection to them, to work with a real community. And not only were we able to help them, but they were very able to help us, which was truly something different. But we quickly realized our goal was not to do well in this competition. Well, we wanted to do well. But as soon as it ended, we weren't disappointed with our result or, upset that it was over. We were kind of just ready to get into the sequel, which was the fundraising. The fundraising part for the actual change. And you can see here us at Fourth Friday doing some fundraising activities where we challenged people to hold 2 gallons of water right in front of them. That was fun to do after practice. So I think first we went to City Hall and spoke to them before you guys picked it up and really hit the ground running. And I cannot thank you enough for all you have done for us. Quickly, you guys expanded this endeavor far past what we originally believed it could be. You even surprised the people who saw me with reaching out to the international Rotaries. You were able to get the global grant approval by the Kenyan Rotary chapter and Rotary Act of Nairobi Parklands. Now I can get to the real part, which is the most important thing being how important your passion is. I was reminded multiple times on this trip by every single group I encountered, every single person I encountered, how important it is for you to be interested in actively working towards something. It really just means the world to the people you're working with, the people you're working for, and even yourself. We got to see, I got to talk to James, who is the president of the Kenyan Rotary chapter, and he told me, how even in the darkest moments of this project where it got slow or they were worried, something might not come through or whatever it might have been, that they would think back to younger people, like, the group of me and my friends, the passion that we had. And, it reminds me of legacy. We tend to think of legacy as something that lives on through us through our children. But I think it can really live on through us through multiple different means, whether it be through, students. I bet Dr. Kellogg can really relate to that. Or whether it be projects that we engage in. And I think that's what has brought most of you here.
10 days after Andrew, Linda, Heather, my wife, Kavita, and I, and all the rest of the team were celebrating the inauguration of this water project, the water was actually flowing. Linda and Kavita and I, at the time, happened to be in London, seeing a beautiful play called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. based on the story from Malawi. And that whole thing was focused on water. And just before that, we got this video. It was pretty intense. So, Linda, you're going to take up the story about the impact on it.
I have worked with young people, looking at different pieces of literature about a long walk to water and different things. And when you're actually there, you can read all you want about these young women and girls walking for miles and miles for water. But when you're there and you see the pipes that are not working because there's no rain and that are being chewed by hyenas because they're thirsty too, and you look at the impact, it's a whole different experience. So this water project, so grateful for your partnership in this, has really caused us to have the opportunity to then develop a wonderful school called the Duggars Learning Community Center. And this school was developed by volunteers. It's now global. Really spearheaded this development of this school. And now because the kids won't be having to walk for water, they'll be able to go to school and get an education. And that is just, makes my heart so happy about that. When you think about what that does then to the intergenerational opportunities, these kids will have opportunities to learn from their elders, and the water is in a very central location. So people will have to come there at all ages from all different, areas to the community and to the school. And so it will really make a huge difference for not just the community with water, but the community with learning and legacy, as Andrew said.
Thinking of agency, connection, innovation, would come to my little piece of the story, which is that though we began working with a group in Kenya in 2020, they several years before had been a part of building the school. And when we were invited to listen to the community for most of a week in 2022, they eventually asked us what we thought. There'd been lots of listening on our part, and then they wanted to hear from us. And we weren't prepared for that. We were prepared to understand their community, but not to show up as the experts. And Kavita looked at me, and I looked at her, and we didn't know what was going to happen next. And I stood up, and then these basic ideas flowed from me, which was that I had been gifted a ceremonial staff from the Maasai in Mashuuru. And I said, I think this staff serves three purposes. The first is the bravest amongst you will face down a lion with only this staff. That's not me. I'm grateful that there are brave people like that in the world, but that's not me. And I said, the second is I've lived amongst enough ranchers around the world to know that you probably use the same staff to tap a reluctant cow on the hip and move them along. And they kind of nodded their heads. Okay, so I made the connection. They understood that I understood their lives. But I think the third thing is that you use these staffs to draw out ideas you have on the surface of the earth. And we happened to be in a school that had an earthen floor, so I was able to draw all the ideas that they had shared over the course of that week. And it included, well, if we had water at the school, not only, as Linda pointed out, could we all come to learn together at this school, but we could have a garden. Because it's a little hard to have a garden when giraffes can reach over a bramble fence and eat all the food that you have, or the zebras walk through. But at a school, we can have a tall fenced garden. And if we had a garden, we might even have a community kitchen. And so perhaps there are other ways in which we could be not only using small amounts of water to grow food, but we could think of other ways that are healthier for us to prepare that food. And if we had those pieces, we might even then have a community center where we could share our culture with the rest of the world. So all of those innovations came from the community. They flowed through me and the staff and on the earth there. And I said, but you know what? Wonderful thing about drawing in the earth is that your ideas can change. That this is what we think you're interested in today, but until we have more information, we can revise. And sure enough, before I even finished, somebody had walked across the room and stepped on the little drawing that I had made. So the only photograph I have of that is a footprint right in the middle of that drawing. And I think it reflects that idea of a deep innovation within the people. I believe that the last thing that we want to share with you is back to that opening statement that I said about imagine if young people in one part of the world could be so engaged and agentic in their learning, as Andrew has shared, um, and, uh, and deeply connected, as Linda was sharing, to create amazing innovations. So our next step and the next opportunity for Rotary clubs around the world is to help young people jump into this 20 by 30 challenge that we've created. So the UN created something called the Sustainable Development Goals. The intent was by the year 2030 that those goals would be achieved at various levels around the world, those 17 goals. And what we've done is to say between now and March 3rd, 2027, create a team and identify things that you're passionate about, just like Andrew was saying, and identify 3 of the goals that you think you could help make a difference to, and submit your idea by March 3rd, 2027, because after that, you'll have 3 years to implement it. And the goal is that by the different people participating, that they will be able to then receive a little bit of launch money to help make their idea happen. So though the amount of funds that you amongst Sunrise Rotary and all the other Ohio Rotaries had to put together was substantial, we know that sometimes $3,000 makes a huge difference in launching some amazing ideas in the world. And so that's the essence of our challenge. We, of course, are always appreciative of financial sponsorship, but we like to also identify that your expertise might be really helpful to some of these teams, or your network might be really helpful to this. So whatever way that you're able to support us in taking the work that was inspired by young people here in Westerville, inspired by the work that all of you, we appreciate your support.